What is light without dark?
Hello and welcome back to more Films and Your Constant Critique, where we take a look at films, some good, some bad, and some downright awful. I'm Bongo Baikov, joined by our host Maverick, Dren, Zaria. This week we're taking a look at the 1985 film Legend.
Yeah, or Legend of Darkness, which was the working title, apparently.
Huh.
I guess they just decided to simplify it. Wait, which Legend are we doing? Are we doing the Tom Cruise one or the Tom Hardy one? I'm confused.
Now I've decided we're changing it. We're doing the Tom Hardy one.
Okay.
Instead.
I enjoyed the performances of Tom Hardy and Tom Hardy in that movie. The actual movie was okay, but anyway, I don't remember much at all about that movie. Okay. So.
No joke, actually, when I tried searching for the 1985 Legend, it kept popping up with the Tom Hardy one.
Okay. So, Legend was released on August 28th, 1985 in France.
Huh.
And then April 18th, 1986 in the United States. It cost $24.5 million and only made $23.5 million.
Ugh.
Although it does have a cult following.
Yikes.
It does have a cult
Okay.
following, though. Although, because it bombed, there's some people that blame this movie for killing off big budget studio fantasy films for a while.
Huh.
Not sure the validity of that claim, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised. This is our first Tom Cruise movie on the podcast.
It took us a while. What are we, like 70, 71 episodes in?
It's something like that, yeah. And this also means I need to work some Scientology jokes into this. Although, to be fair, this movie was made before he became a Scientologist.
Okay.
This is our fifth Ridley Scott movie on the podcast.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah, he's now the director we've done the most movies of, unless you count the stolen footage from Star Wars that's included in Turkish Star Wars, in which case he's tied with George Lucas. Well, Billy Barty is in this. Which, you know what that means.
I'm trying to remember what else we had him in, because I'm pretty sure we had him in something.
Well, we also had him in Willow, which...
Oh, that's what it was.
But this also gives this movie a direct connection to...
Oh no, to Masters of the Universe.
Yep. And while watching this, honestly, I was comparing this movie a lot to those two movies. Especially Willow. I felt like the Willow comparisons were just going to be inevitable. Tim Curry.
Is this the first time we've had him?
We've somehow never had him on the podcast.
Wow. Coming in the same episode as Tom Cruise.
Yeah, he's another one of those actors like Christopher Walken or Dennis Hopper where even if the movie's bad, he's really enjoyable.
Yes.
And this movie is definitely no exception to that.
And this now marks the second time we've had a Palpatine actor show up. In the animated Clone Wars TV show, Tim Curry played Palpatine.
That's right, yeah. I forgot about that. Or no, wait. That would be the third time, because we had Ian McDermott. Ian Abercrombie was in some movie we did.
That's right.
He was in
I
Army
forgot
of
about him.
Darkness, and now Tim Curry, so that's three, actually. Mia Sara is in this, and she played Sloane Peterson in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, so that's another Ferris Bueller actor we've had on the podcast. The other being Alan Ruck,
Mhm.
Cameron, who's in The Happening as the principal.
I actually re-listened to our episode on that yesterday. I forgot how wild that movie is.
It really is, yeah. Robert Picardo is in this, which most people know him from Star Trek Voyager. And he also played the cowboy in Inner Space.
Oh.
And the Johnny Cab in Total Recall.
Hey, I just watched Total Recall again, like 3 days ago or something.
Did you realize that the Johnny Cab was in this movie?
I did not.
I think he plays that witch character that they find in the swamp.
Yeah.
Jerry Goldsmith did the score. Although the theatrical version, at least the US version, it had music by the band Tangerine Dream.
Which was an interesting choice.
And Jerry Goldsmith's score is in the European version, though.
And
it was in the version I watched, the director's cut, and I think it's an okay score. Overall, I wouldn't call it one of his best scores. Certainly not as good as his score for Supergirl. What's interesting is the writer of this movie was a novelist.
Oh, really?
He wrote the book Falling Angel, which was later made into the movie Angel Heart.
Huh.
Which is this really weird mystery, supernatural thriller with Mickey Rourke and Robert De Niro.
Huh.
He only wrote 2 other movies. One was a Roger Corman TV movie.
Oh.
That was supposed to be a pilot for a TV show called Georgia Peaches.
Okay.
And it starred Dirk Benedict from Battlestar Galactica. But yeah, we watched the director's cut of Legend, or at least I did. And apparently Ridley Scott and Tom Cruise, they disowned the theatrical version of it, so...
I was about to say, I watched, so the first time I tried watching it, I did it on Amazon Prime. Or, not Prime, I rented the movie, and that was the theatrical cut.
Oh, so you have seen this before?
No. Like, when I tried watching it for this, I ended up seeing the theatrical cut. But then I went back, I didn't get through all of it, but I did watch about half of the director's cut afterwards.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna, this is probably getting into our impressions right now, but yeah, the director's cut is better than the theatrical cut. So I guess I'll start with my initial thoughts on the theatrical cut. It's not great. It's certainly not the worst thing I've ever seen. I wouldn't even really call it bad, but it's just a little bit bland for the most part. Obviously, the set design and the costumes are just spectacular. Obviously, in both versions. But yeah, the theatrical cut is not the best way to watch this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I honestly kind of hate the Tangerine Dream score.
I tried listening to some of it yesterday, and I was like thinking, this doesn't really fit the movie.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
Like, the Jerry Goldsmith score isn't, like, amazing by any means, but I think it suits the movie better than the Tangerine Dream one, at least from what
it does
listen to.
And then I guess the only other thing I just want to briefly mention is the cast. Tom Cruise feels like a weird choice for this movie.
Yeah. Remember, though, this was very, very early in his career. This was right after The Outsiders.
Okay.
Right before Top Gun. So he hadn't quite hit it big yet. as like a leading man.
Yeah, it is
It was
very
after
weird,
Risky
though.
Business, though, so
Okay.
there's that.
It's really weird seeing him in a fantasy setting for me. Like, I always associate Tom Cruise
Action.
with, like, action, like modern day movies with maybe a little bit futuristic technology.
Or, like, comedies sometimes.
Yeah.
Dramas. You know.
Yeah.
It's like recently I was watching Jerry Maguire and Rain Man, and it's like miles away from his performance in those two movies. I can't really think of, I was trying to think, like, had he done any other fantasy movies? I don't think he had.
Huh. It definitely doesn't feel like his genre.
Like, I can think of a few sci-fi movies, like Oblivion or Vanilla Sky. I tried watching that recently. That movie is terrible. Or Edge of Tomorrow, that was sci-fi, but I can't think of too many fantasy movies that he did. Unless Top Gun is fantasy.
Top Gun Maverick is my favorite fantasy movie.
It sounded like you were doing the Plinkett voice there.
It was very close to the Plinkett voice.
Jesus. Is there anything else you want to add about it before?
I think those are my opening thoughts.
Did you like it or dislike it?
Overall, I think I liked it. At least the theatrical release. Like I said, it wasn't great, but I enjoyed it for what it was, and from what I saw of the director's cut, that one is much, much better.
Okay. So when I first saw this, I think I saw the theatrical version of it, and I remember just not being that impressed with it. I remember thinking the world looked really cool, but I did not understand what was going on at all. The plot kind of just lost me, and watching it again, I still don't know what is going on. Basically, this movie is pretty people in pretty backgrounds, and I have pretty much no idea what's happening.
That's a pretty fair assessment of this movie.
Like, the
so
plot
I've got a
and
question
characters,
for you.
it kind of just felt like a generic fantasy movie, but I will say the set design and like the locations, like the camera work, all of that is great.
Yeah.
And the makeup effects, especially on darkness, look really good.
Yeah, the visuals are fantastic. Everything else,
I mean, every Ridley Scott movie has, like, at least, like, from that time, had, like, great visuals, you know? You can definitely see his creative stamp on it. It's just, I wish the plot was better, and I wish the characters were better. So we've done a few fantasy movies on this podcast. We've done Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer. Hell, I'd consider Army of Darkness more of a fantasy movie than a horror movie, if I'm being honest.
Willow.
And Willow, yeah. And watching this, I was thinking this kind of has similar problems for me that I have with Willow, at least as far as like the way the plot is structured and stuff. The tone's completely different.
Yeah.
Because Legend is a much darker movie in tone than Willow is. Although I did enjoy it more than a few other Tom Cruise movies I saw recently, like Vanilla Sky, for example. God, that movie is better than that movie, to be fair, though. So there's that. I mean, it goes without saying, you know, since it's a Ridley Scott movie, it's a beautifully shot film. The camera shot,
yes,
it is beautiful to look at. Like, during, like, the first, like, 10, like, 15 minutes of it, I was like, this looks amazing, you know? And then I as the plot kept going along, I was like, wait a second. what's going on? Wait, what? You're just like... And then, like, I read the Wikipedia summary of it, I was thinking, okay, maybe I was putting too much thought into it. Because it's a very simple plot, but it's just, the characters were just talking in just this really, like, poetic style. I don't know. Nobody talks like a normal human being in this movie. So, okay, I guess we'll get into the... Again, the camera shots are great. Again, kind of just goes without saying, you know.
And I personally think...
I think the look of the world is great.
Yes.
Like, it has... A lot of it was shot on location. Well, mostly, like, the first half of it.
Yeah. I imagine that they didn't shoot on location when they were within the fortress of the Lord of Darkness.
Yeah, exactly.
They couldn't afford the ticket to hell to film all those scenes.
Is he supposed to be Satan in this movie?
I'm like 99.99% sure he's supposed to be Satan.
Because, I mean, he does look like, yeah. Oh, it's funny that this like guy also wrote Angel Heart, but... And also, a lot of the creature designs were kind of making me think of Labyrinth or the Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
As well. But yeah, so the first beginning of this movie, we start with... I don't know if I'm going to be able to recap this, honestly. We have Darkness, who is played by Tim Curry. He's just given this, like, speech, I guess. His villain
about
speech.
Darkness and about how much better it is than the light.
Something like that, yeah. And I will say this, Tim Curry is the best thing about this movie.
Yes.
By far.
And I think one of the things that helps him stand out so much is just how absolutely insane his makeup and costume are.
Which you don't see it at first. Like, it's kind of like you don't get that reveal until later into the movie. But yeah, the makeup's great, like, on him. And the voice, he chose this really deep voice that really fits the character, you know.
And it really is, like, if no one's ever, like, seen what he looks like in this movie, it's like the most stereotypical version of Satan you can imagine. He's all red, he's got gigantic horns on top of his head.
Yeah, he's got, like, goat hooves, you know. It's just like, I mean... It literally is, like, just the prototypical, like, Satan depiction in movies, really. Like, even though they don't technically call him that, but, I mean, he is, like, the Lord of Darkness, I guess.
Yeah.
Is this the first time is this the first time we've had Satan as a character on the podcast?
I think it is. It took us a while.
Yeah, the first movie of Tom Cruise, first movie of Satan. Yeah, so he's doing his thing, just giving his villain speeches in his villain lair. Like all movie villains do. Then we have Mia Sara just singing in a field. And her first scenes felt a lot like Snow White.
Yeah, a little bit.
She's just like out in fields singing alone, and there's like animals and stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that was something I read, is that Ridley Scott was trying to make this movie feel like a fairy tale. Like, he took a lot of like older Disney movies as inspiration.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it shows, especially with the visuals.
Yeah, it's a very colorful movie, for sure. Like, it's very nice to look at. And then Tom Cruise shows up and tries to force her to take a personality test. A lot of my notes, I was like, before I watched this movie, I was like thinking, okay, Tom Cruise is in this. Let me write up a few Scientology jokes beforehand and try to fit them in somewhere. um, there, you got the first one.
That's pretty good.
There will be more of them.
And then I don't think we mentioned what Tom Cruise's character's name is, but it's Jack of the Green.
Something like that, yeah. I was thinking he looked sort of like a character that would be in A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah.
Like, the beginning of it was sort of reminding me of that. And there's also fairies in the movie, too, so... He's a Puck, basically. Or
Yeah.
Peter Pan. The way his costume also made him look kind of like Peter Pan. And he's basically her lover, I guess, who just lives in the woods.
Yeah.
And she lives in like a cottage in the woods, again, kind of like Snow White. And the dialogue, it was weird.
It's hard to describe. It's very flowery. It's definitely like a fairy tale style of speaking.
It was trying to give it this really whimsical feel. But I was like thinking, okay, the movie looks and feels like super whimsical, fairy tale-ish. I think that's a little easy to forgive. It feels more magical than Willow did, at least. So I'll give it that. And they just wander around in the forest. He blindfolds her.
And leads her to unicorns.
It's kind of weird, because usually when Tom Cruise gets a wife, his Scientologist friends have to audition them first. So, and no blindfolds are involved. Now you know what to expect for the rest of the episode. Okay. And yeah, they find a couple of unicorns, which... there's also these goblins following him around.
And the goblins are servants of the Lord of Darkness. And so they've been sent to kill the unicorns so that the world is kept in eternal darkness.
Yeah, because the unicorns, they're said to be the only pure thing in this world. I'll say this, it is a better plot setup than Willow.
Yeah.
What was the plot of that one again? Just, let's have a sorceress try killing a baby? I like how the goblins call the unicorns ugly one-horned mules.
Yeah.
You get more of Mia Sara singing. Because again, they're trying to make it feel like a Disney movie. It felt like just a live-action version of a Disney cartoon.
Yeah.
That's really what it felt like. Like a live-action version of Bambi or Snow White, like I mentioned earlier. It's also just weird. Tom Cruise, like, it's weird seeing him with long hair.
Yeah.
And also he's really disheveled. I guess this is just what Tom Cruise looked like before he drank the blood of Xenu or whatever.
It's so strange seeing him in a fantasy setting and talking like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, honestly, it feels more like this would have been a better role for, like, young Leonardo DiCaprio than a young Tom
like
Cruise.
11 when this movie came out, by the way. So that's not gonna happen. One thing I was thinking, I was gonna say this for later, but I was realizing, because I kept comparing this to Willow, I was thinking, okay, what you could have done is you could have switched Tom Cruise with Val Kilmer in Willow. Just switch them both around. You could have Val Kilmer as this weird forest person, which honestly, that would have fit better than this. And then have Tom Cruise playing Mad Mardigan.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually would have worked a lot better.
It really would have, yeah. And then she drops this ring and he dives into the water to get it.
Because she tells him that whoever gets this ring can marry me.
Yeah, something like that.
And there's something we should point out here, just real quick. So these goblins are trying to kill the unicorns. They get one. Lily, the character played by Mia Sara, watches, like, she's standing right there when the one gets struck by like a poison dart. Jack goes crazy for like 10 seconds saying, "You shouldn't have come here, you shouldn't have done this." And then they're back to normal and just flirting immediately after.
Yeah, it's strange.
And so she takes off her ring, throws it off of a cliff, and says, "Whoever finds my ring can marry me." So Jack just goes and jumps off a cliff.
Yeah, I'll say this, though, they have better romantic chemistry than Val Kilmer and whoever it was that played Saoirse in Willow.
Yeah.
And another thing, like, I was thinking about, like, where he's, like, swimming through water, I was, like, thinking, like, how do these shots look this good? Like,
Yeah.
Because it is hard to get camera shots underwater.
And they seemed really clear.
They do, yeah, that's crazy. Maybe he was just in a water tank or something, I don't know. But and again, I will say, I don't understand what's going on, but it's really nice to look at. So, one of the unicorns gets killed or something.
It gets its horn chopped off.
Yeah, now all of a sudden there's ice everywhere. And the goblins are trying to find them.
And how unfortunate for Tom Cruise that just as soon as he dives into water, it freezes over.
Yeah, he's like trying to break out of the ice. Yeah.
And again, when everything freezes over, it's a pretty cool shot. Just seeing everything suddenly get covered in frost and snow.
Again, the movie looks really good. Like, all the visuals and stuff are really good. It's just I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Including the next scene, this is where I really started to get lost. He starts talking to this elf. I was just like, what is going on? And apparently the elf is named Gump.
Yep.
And he sits on a bench, offers Tom Cruise chocolates, and then tells him his life story. Obviously.
I mean, what else would you do?
Forrest Gump, obviously. Like, the minute I found out there's a character just named Gump, I'm like, oh my god.
Can you imagine if he had been played by Tom Hanks instead of a kid?
Tom Hanks and Tom Cruise, both before they, like, made it big, basically. And before Tom Hanks made the movie big. Again, I feel like most of my notes for this are just going to be, this looks pretty, I don't know what's going on. Like, I literally looked up the Wikipedia summary. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm reading too much into this. But part of it was just the characters, they'd just be talking, and I didn't understand what they were talking about half the time.
They talk really fast, and it's usually nothing of note. It's just them, like, trying to poke fun at each other, really.
Or it's exposition.
Yeah.
I guess I snoozed during some of the exposition. I really should have had some, like, subtitles on during this. Kind of the same when I first saw Everything Everywhere All at Once. I was really lost because I didn't have subtitles on during it. Tom Cruise finds the unicorns and then tries to convert them. Oh my gosh. How many Scientology jokes can I fit into one episode? One goblin says, "I got the power now."
And they're using the unicorn's horn as like a wand.
But when he said that, it made me think of He-Man.
Yeah.
Sorry, what happened to that scene? So he meets some elves, he meets some goblins. Like, it was just so random. Like, it was just scenes of Tom Cruise meeting these weird characters, and that was it. Just he met a weird character.
And they follow him, but they don't really do anything until, like, the climax of the movie.
I was, like, thinking, where's the character development here? Or maybe I just didn't understand what they were talking about, so the character development got lost on me. Oh my god. This fairy is, like, showing him the way, and there's this room full of treasure.
And he gets himself a nice sword.
And a suit of armor. I hope they don't rip off my superhero idea 30 years before it came out. Before I came up with
it. That would be unfortunate.
They didn't, by the way. Tom Cruise gets glitter on him. Because that happens. Does that happen in Scientology?
I'd assume all the time.
We see the goblins again, and then darkness shows up.
I kind of love this scene around the campfire, I'm gonna be honest. It had the one part that I found kind of funny.
Yeah, there's not a lot of humor in this, at least from what I remember. It's very serious.
But so there's a scene where the main goblin Blix is, like, kind of torturing the other goblins with the horn. And then darkness shows up. This corpse gets resurrected, grabs one of the goblins, and jumps down a pit. Presumably killing the other goblin. It came out of nowhere.
Yeah. And darkness, he's basically mad they haven't killed the last unicorn.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another movie this reminded me of a little bit. The Last Unicorn. I mean, basically any scene where darkness showed up was great, because it's Tim Curry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Tom Cruise, he's wearing the armor. He encounters this swamp creature that looks sort of like the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
And he just cuts her head off. And then we move on.
This movie really is sort of the definition of style over substance.
That was basically my problem with it. I was, like, just wondering, where's the plot? Where's, like, character development? Like, basically. Because I don't. What was the point of the goblin? What was the point of that scene with the swamp creature?
I guess it's to show that Jack knows how to use a sword.
Okay.
And that's, like, the only real thing.
Okay. And Tom Cruise and the elves end up in a dungeon. Just because we have to delay the climax. It literally is just scene, meet some random character, scene. Character development? What's that? The fairy wants Tom Cruise to kiss her, and her form looks like Mia Sara for a bit.
Mm.
And she gets mad when he won't kiss her, because... Why? I don't know. I was getting a little bit bored at this point, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
So,
thankfully, it does pick up at least a little bit once we get towards the end.
Yeah, because darkness shows up again and gives another monologue. And kind of the thing about darkness's voice sounds a little like Smog.
A little bit, yeah.
Either that or that pufferfish from Finding Nemo. I can just hear him saying, "The raid of fire." But again, it's just, I mean, whenever Tim Curry is given a chance to just be an evil like, just charismatic villain, he goes all in. So, I mean, I'm not complaining about his performance. Mia Sara wanders around in a castle. And she finds a necklace.
And Lord Darkness,
This
the
scene
Lord
was
of Darkness,
interesting. She like sees someone dancing around in a black dress,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden she's wearing the dress. So is it like the black goo that Spider-Man gets covered in or something?
it's her symbiote suit.
Yeah, kind of.
And yeah, she's wearing like black lipstick now. She's wearing like evil queen regalia. And then Darkness shows up.
Yeah, and then Darkness shows up. We finally see what this is where we finally see what Darkness looks like, and he basically just looks like the devil. I mean,
it's a pretty good costume and makeup job.
I think I remember one time, like before I'd even seen this movie, I think I just was looking up pictures of Satan, and this is like one of the first ones that came up. I mean, it's just stereotypical like Satan. You know, he's red, he has horns, he has goat hooves. Incredible makeup job, but I guess like it's as good as like the makeup job for Hellboy, if you ask me.
I wouldn't be surprised if this movie was the inspiration for the Tenacious D version of the devil.
Probably. That'd be a weird movie. Tenacious D in Legend.
You'd have to make it an opera so that you could get Jack Black singing constantly.
Yeah. Basically just replace Mia Sara with Jack Black. So he'd be singing the songs that she sings in this movie. And yeah, Darkness, he's cool. I wish the rest of the characters were as good as he was. Tom Cruise says he wants every shining object, and we're going to bring light to darkness. That's some great dialogue right there. I think another problem, there's not a lot of action in this.
Yeah, not really until the very end.
It's a lot of just walking around.
And talking in this flowery language that really doesn't add up to anything.
I mean, there's a lot of things I criticized Willow for. You can listen to the podcast if you want. But one thing it had a lot of good action scenes.
Yeah.
Mostly in the last half. Whereas Legend, it's kind of just... I mean, there's occasionally an action scene, but not very many of them. Which I guess the movie was trying to be this, like, really kind of dark.
Sort of serious. Which is an interesting combination to go through. Sort of a dark, serious story, but also trying to make it seem like a Disney fairy tale.
Yeah, and maybe just the tone just didn't mesh. I don't know.
Yeah.
I did like the look of the dungeon.
Yeah. Everything's on fire.
There's like all this smoke and stuff. Like, that was cool, I thought.
Yeah.
Sets and props are really good. One thing that stunned me, though, you probably didn't notice this at all, but they reused a music cue from Psycho 2.
Really?
Yeah, it's like while they're like down like in the dungeon and stuff, and they use a music cue from Psycho 2. And Psycho 2 was also scored by Jerry Goldsmith, so I guess he was just recycling it.
That's interesting, actually.
I was like just listening to that, I was thinking, wait a second, that sounds familiar. I'm like, Psycho 2? Are you kidding me? I mean, I like the music from Psycho 2, but what's it doing in this movie? We get a scene of Darkness talking to Mia Sara about dreams. just to remind us that Tim Curry is easily the best thing about this movie. I mean, his character motivations aren't anything all that new. But the design and voice are perfect. Like, he's definitely a villain. You know?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. I think someone's knocking on my door. Alright, I'm back. They were looking for somebody across the hall.
Okay. You should have asked them if they've seen Legend. And then we could get them on the podcast and hear their thoughts. They'd probably be like, "Oh, the Tom Hardy movie," something like that. But yeah, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, I was talking about Darkness. I mean, he's a pretty good villain. Again, nothing new. He's just, I want to take over the world, make everything darkness. I mean, you know what his motivations are, I guess. I guess that's the thing. Like, his motivations are very clear, and Tim Curry's got a great voice too. His laugh is great.
That laugh is like iconic in this movie.
It's so good, yeah. Also, like, there was an exchange between him and Mia Sarah, which...
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about.
You're nothing but an animal.
We are all animals, my lady. Most are too afraid to see it.
I would have laughed if at some point a character said to Darkness, "Hello, Darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again." Anyway. Meanwhile, they're planning on sacrificing the unicorn, and she lets the unicorn go. Yeah, because she like pretends she's gonna join him, basically.
And I do like the line about that when she's tricking him into it. When she goes, "I hear a throat begging to be cut." Darkness responds, "Are you so eager to see blood flow?" I don't know why I'm making him sound like that. It's not what he sounds like.
Are you so... I can't do it either. Wait, let me try again. Are you so... I can't fucking do it. God damn it.
I need to hear him again.
I'd probably just make him sound like Skeletor from the Masters of the Universe movie. Tell me about the loneliness of good He-Man. Is it equal to the loneliness of evil?
Of evil. What is light without dark?
The thing is, his voice is so deep. I was like wondering
Yeah.
if they added some kind of effect to it.
It sounds like there's a bit of an echo in like every scene that he's in.
But yeah. Tom Cruise, he jumps in to fight Darkness.
Well, he nails him with an arrow first, and then he jumps in.
He starts lecturing Darkness about how he knows the real history of psychiatry. I will say the shot of a Darkness running looked a bit silly.
Yeah.
Because he's just running in that just huge costume. It's just like, oh my god.
You have to imagine that Tim Curry's neck hurt doing that movie.
Oh my god, yeah. I was like reading about like how they put like so much makeup on him, and it was just really painful to take it off. To like, yeah. They have a sword fight. It's an okay sword fight. It's not great, it's not terrible. It's just there. Darkness says there can't be light without dark, just to remind you he's the bad guy.
And he gets banished into space.
Yeah, he gets stabbed with a unicorn horn and then just sucked out into the light and then into space. I was like,
I know, I was watching him like, hold on, why is he in space now?
I didn't understand how he died. It was weird. And he explodes off in the distance and becomes like stars or something.
Yeah.
That was weird. Yeah, it was strange. And then Tom Cruise jumps in the water and finds the ring. So trying to get married to Mia Sarah.
Yep. And then there's one of 3 endings depending on which version of the movie you bothered to watch.
Yeah, what was the ending for the theatrical version again?
So in the theatrical version, Tom Cruise and Mia Sarah, they end up professing their love for one another, and they watch the 2 unicorns reunite and then go off into the sunset together. And then you hear Tim Curry laughing from the void.
Oh. I can't do his laugh either, damn it.
And as far as I understand, the European version ends the same way, but they take out Darkness's laugh.
And then in the director's cut, the one I watched, she gives the ring back to him, and he just goes back to live in the forest. And kind of a bittersweet ending. So that makes this what? Like the second time a Ridley Scott movie changed the ending to something a little happier.
Yeah.
Goddamn test audiences. Then we see a title card that says, "This is what Scientologists actually believe," and the movie ends. Okay, that was not much of a summary, was it? Unless there was something I missed. Was there anything I missed?
Not anything notable.
Overall thoughts.
It's okay. The biggest reason to watch it is for the cool set design and costumes and makeup.
And Tim Curry.
Yeah.
Tim Curry. It's just a fairly generic fantasy movie that's pretty to look at. I feel like people that do like this movie, they probably like it more just for the style than the substance. And I mean, the style, it looks amazing.
I know, like, if we actually got a, I don't mean to dunk on this movie too hard, but if we got like a really good fantasy movie with this style, that would just be awesome.
Again, though, Tim Curry's a great villain. You know, he's always fun to watch, especially when he's playing a villain. I mean, because he just has the right voice and the right personality, where he's just able to play these villains who are just so diabolical and crazy, but also you just love them at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the case in this movie. And the makeup on him is great. I was shocked to find out that this lost the best makeup Oscar because
what did it lose to?
But then I found out what it lost to, and I was like, okay, I'm not shocked. It lost to The Fly.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have to show him transforming over the course of that movie. So I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair.
Overall, though, it was a very style over substance movie. The story and characters just weren't that great. A lot of the dialogue was overly flowery. If I ever do watch this again, I'm definitely watching it with subtitles or something.
Yeah.
I think another thing that kind of killed it is just the movie takes itself so seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fine with a dark movie, you know, but like there needs to be a little more balance to it. There needs to be like more human interest to offset it.
Yeah.
There's like not a ton of humor in this. really.
All of the characters are pretty flat. Like, you know what they're all about within their introduction scene.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason Darkness is such a fun villain is because he's played by Tim Curry and because of the design,
Yeah.
really. I mean, because he really is just kind of your typical, like, fantasy villain wants to take over the realm, basically.
Yeah.
But because it's Tim Curry, he just became this larger-than-life character who... He really does just overshadow, like, everybody else in this movie. Like, he
Yeah.
just has so much presence that it makes you wish, like, the rest of the movie was as fun as he was. So, yeah. Because the other characters were just kind of bland, and it's just things happening, and there's no real significance for why they happen aside from there's light and there's dark.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where they literally call the villain Darkness in this. And were there really any character arcs in this?
Not really.
I mean, even Willow, say what you want about it, it has a lot of problems. It has character arcs. Kind of.
Willow at least kind of transforms over the course of his quest.
Yeah, Willow has a good character arc. The other characters, they try to do character arcs for him, but they fail.
It feels like they didn't even try with this movie. Because all of the characters pretty much end the movie where they started.
Well, except for Darkness is now dead, but he stays the same character.
Yeah.
Here it's just, oh, go save the unicorns from Satan. Okay. And I think I mentioned this before. Tom Cruise, I think he was miscast in this.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier they should have switched Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise. Not just because they're both in Top Gun, but because I do feel like if you switch the casting choice of Mad Mardigan and Tom Cruise's character in this, it probably would have worked better.
Yeah.
Really, this reminds me of quite a few fantasy movies from this era. Stuff like The Dark Crystal or Willow. We keep mentioning Willow. I wonder why. Where they look nice, but the plot and characters don't give you enough to chew on.
Yeah.
Although after talking about it a bit, I do think this is better than Willow.
Really?
By a little bit. Because I think the villain's better. Like, does anybody really remember the villain from Willow?
I just remember that she reminds me of Darth Sidious.
Kinda, yeah. I think it looks better. I think it has a better atmosphere than Willow does.
Yeah.
And the story has problems. I do think the pacing is a little bit better in Legend than in Willow. Willow is
I will admit that is
than this. Like, Willow's more fun. Like, it has a lighter tone.
Yeah.
Although I will say, though, I do think the actual title character, Willow, is better than the main character.
Than Jack of the Green.
Yeah, but one thing I will say, though, the romance in this is a lot better than the one in Willow.
Yeah.
Not even close. Like,
you see, that's all due to the fact that in Willow they had absolutely no chemistry.
Yeah, here in this, I at least was like, okay, they at least seem like they're in love. Like, it's not great, but it's better than in that. It's a pretty low bar, to be fair.
Trivia!
Gene Siskel hated it. He gave it half a star out of 4. Ouch.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's... And he said, I don't want to remember any more about Legend than to make sure I include it in my worst films of 1986 list and never rent it when it comes out as a video cassette. Damn, dude.
That's pretty brutal.
I was like reading his review, like I didn't really understand entirely why he was so harsh on it. But then again, it was the theatrical version, so maybe.
Yeah.
Roger Ebert didn't like it either, but he was a little less harsh. He gave it 2 out of 4 stars.
Okay. I think that's about where I'd put it.
He criticized the tone and Tom Cruise's performance. He ended the review by saying all of the special effects in the world and all of the great makeup and all of the great Muppet creatures can't save a movie that has no clear idea of its own mission and no joy in its own accomplishment. Fair enough. Leonard Maltin, what do you want to guess first?
I'm gonna guess that he considers this to be an almost perfect example of a fantasy movie. I'm gonna guess that he gave it 3 out of 4 stars.
As good as
As good as Batman Forever.
No, he gave it 2 out of 4 stars.
Okay. Honestly, that is a lot lower than I expected him to give to the movie.
Okay. What, you thought he was gonna give it 4 stars, perhaps? Better than Lord of the Rings, according to Letterboxd. So the inspiration for the film came from Ridley Scott reading a bunch of fairy tales, apparently.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As well as Disney movies, particularly Snow White, Bambi, and Fantasia. Which definitely explains the color scheme.
Yeah.
And also some of it kind of feels like the like Night on Bald Mountain stuff from Fantasia a little bit. It's like
Yeah,
just so
especially
darkness.
the design of... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, darkness looks like Chernobog, basically. Apparently the original concept was a lot darker and definitely would not have gotten a PG rating. Which does make me wonder, like, what would have happened if we'd gotten that instead.
It might have been a bit more interesting.
Like I mentioned before, unused footage of the unicorn from this movie was later used in the recuts of Blade Runner for the unicorn dream.
That is actually very interesting to think about now that I've seen both of these movies.
It is. It'd be funny if he'd also included scenes of darkness in there as well. That was interesting. Other actors considered for Tom Cruise's part. Johnny Depp.
That would have been interesting.
This is like really, really early in his career.
Yeah. When did the first Nightmare on Elm Street come out? I don't remember.
Before this, 1984.
Oh, okay, so that would have been...
His career, that's like all he was known for, was being
Yeah.
like pulled into a bed with a bunch of blood coming out. Jim Carrey.
No.
And again, very, very early in his career, like,
Yeah.
is like Earth Girls Are Easy era Jim Carrey. And Robert Downey Jr.
Oh. Huh.
I find all these choices just really funny in hindsight, because there was a time when, like, people didn't know who any of these three were.
Yeah, it would have been the time that Legend was being made.
Yeah. It's like Robert Downey Jr., what was his biggest role at that point? Like, weird science? Back to school? And of those three, who do you think would have been... I think Johnny Depp of those three.
Yeah, it has to be Johnny Depp.
Yeah, Jim Carrey doesn't really make sense for
No.
this type of movie. I think he'd be even more out of place than Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And I don't know about Robert Downey Jr. I haven't really seen him in any fantasy movies unless...
Yeah, I don't think... I mean, I really haven't seen anything from before, his Iron Man role. But it's just hard for me to imagine him.
Are you telling me you haven't seen U.S. Marshals, the best sequel ever made?
Sadly, I have not.
Okay. There's a reason you haven't. It was like do you even know what that is?
I think I've...
It was a sequel to The Fugitive.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about now.
Tommy Lee Jones is in it, but I think he's like the only person from the first movie that came back.
Yeah.
So there's no Harrison Ford, there's no anybody else really, and of course it didn't end up being very good. I mean, what do you expect? For years, it was falsely rumored that this film was the source of inspiration for Shigeru Miyamoto's The Legend of Zelda games.
Huh. I was even kind of wondering that watching parts of it, especially just seeing kind of what the fairies looked like, how it was just sort of that ball of light that was flying around, because that's basically what
kind of
fairies look like in Zelda.
I take the story isn't anything like what's in Legend of Zelda.
Nah, not really.
Okay, I didn't think so. After an accident where Tim Curry tore off some of his skin while removing the makeup, Jesus Christ.
Ooh.
They decided to shoot around him for a week, resulting in a long build-up to the reveal of darkness in the movie.
Huh.
This is why you don't see him for 3/4 of the movie. And then when you finally do see the makeup, you're like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, imagine that makeup wasn't the most pleasant thing to wear.
Yeah, but that seriously is like some of the best like makeup I've seen in like one of those types of movies. Like, it's insane how well it holds up. Entertainment Weekly listed Tim Curry's performance as Darkness as the best performance in a bad movie.
That's fair.
I mean, it's not a great movie. I don't think it's that bad. Like, I just thought it was okay. I mean,
but his performance was definitely the best part of this movie.
Tom Cruise reportedly wasn't happy with the American cut of this movie and wouldn't talk about it for years because of it.
Wow.
He very much encouraged fans to go with the director's cut. The face of Goblin Blix was designed after that of Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones.
What? That feels like an insult.
I've also seen like pictures of people comparing like Keith Richards to Hoggle from Labyrinth. So, because I mean, now that he's older, he kind of does look like a goblin. So. Gosh. fucking and apparently Keith Richards is gonna outlive all of us. I remember there was like one I saw. It was like, for every cigarette you smoke, God takes an hour away from your life and gives it to Keith Richards.
That's pretty good.
Or we need to start worrying about what kind of world we are going to leave for Keith Richards. Because he's seriously, like, just outlived so many fucking people. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The Sound of Unicorns at play is actually a recording of Humpback Whales.
That's certainly an odd choice.
Yeah. I mean, the T-Rex in, like, Jurassic Park, that was what, like, elephant roars and lion roars, among other things.
Yeah.
Apparently, some of the TIE Fighter sound effects, I didn't know this until recently, but they were taken from, elephant sound effects.
Really?
From this movie called, Roots of Heaven.
Huh.
When I like was watching some of that movie, I was thinking, yeah, it does kind of sound like that.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Sound designer Ben Burtt created the distinctive sound of TIE Fighter by combining an elephant call with a car driving on wet pavement. Foley artists scare me, man.
Yeah, I've seen some of the like Star Wars making of stuff, and there's some weird ways they achieve their stuff. At the same time, though, the fact that you would never guess that that's what it would have been, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
it says a lot about how it's incorporated. Like, I've grown a lot more appreciative of, like, good sound design.
Yeah.
Because when a movie doesn't have good sound design, you get, like, that scene from one of the Mission Impossible movies that was accidentally uploaded online without any of, like, the sound effects and stuff added. That's about all I have, so, like, unless you have anything to add for trivia...
Grace Jones visited the set.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wonder if she ended up in the movie.
This would have been a full 9 years before she starred alongside Dennis Hopper in Hell, a cyberpunk thriller.
And also, like, around the same time she was Mayday in A View to a Kill. Apparently the production was filmed on the Pinewood Studio soundstage that was originally created for The Spy Who Loved Me.
Huh.
It's like known as the 007 stage.
Huh.
This film where they were doing the fucking James Bond movies. Director Ridley Scott, along with everyone involved with making this movie, has stated multiple times how the director's cut was much more thought-provoking. Mainly because it dives into the impurity of humans and their sins. After a test screening with mixed to positive results, Scott recut this movie to a stereotypical 80s fantasy, hence his recommendation for the director's cut. But I watched the director's cut, I didn't really get a lot of that. Granted, I couldn't tell what the hell they were saying at some points. So, yeah, Does Darkness die the same way in the theatrical cut as he does in the director's cut?
I believe so. He gets stabbed by the corn and then shot into space.
He just gets sucked out into space and becomes one with Xeno, I guess. I don't know. I still don't understand what the fuck that was.
Hey, we finally broke the trend with this movie, though. There's no Twin Towers in this movie.
Why did you have to bring that up? That is true, though. Does our next movie have the twin... Does True Lies have the Twin Towers in it?
I will find out. No, it doesn't.
I don't even remember where it takes place.
I think it's in California. in the Middle East.
Yeah.
California.
Yeah, and speaking of which, that's our next movie, True Lies.
We're finally getting Schwarzenegger back on.
We're probably gonna do a bunch of Schwarzenegger movies. There's at least 2 or 3 other ones that we were considering doing. Like Commando, The Running Man, and Total Recall. I think Predator, we also considered that at some point.
And I guess until next time, roll the Andy Griff. Oh,
I know what we should do. We should do Kindergarten Cop. Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
You're mine now. You belong to me. We're a Last Action Hero. We do that one, the best Schwarzenegger film.
I forgot James Cameron directed True Lies.
That's right. Yes, he did.
Huh.
It's been a while since we've done a James Cameron movie, too.
Yeah.
Good night, you stupid idiot. Good night, you miserable slob.